Thank you for tuning into another edition of the Daily Scrum News, reporting to you from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm Jonathan Taylor Kane. Nahanni Fontaine, NDP MLA, and spokesperson for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit was kicked out of the Manitoba Legislative Chamber and was denied entry back into the House yesterday after she stood her ground, refusing to withdraw her comments. Fontaine was asking the Pallister government questions during question period in the wake of the death of Jonna Williams, a pregnant 28-year-old Indigenous woman whose body was found near the Red River last week. Fontaine, a longtime supporter of MMIWG2S, expressed her disheartenment that the Conservative did not make any efforts to contact the family of the slain woman or attend the candlelight vigil, and have failed to produce any provincial MMIWG2S strategies since taking office in 2016. It's indicative that they just don't give a crap about Indigenous women and girls in this province, said Fontaine while addressing the House. Speaker of the House, Myrna Dreger, took exception to Fontaine's use of the word crap, ordering Fontaine to apologize for the unparliamentary language. The passionate, unwavering champion for MMIWG2S families who have lost their mother, sister, friend, aunt to brutal violence, stood her ground and refused to withdraw her comment when Speaker Dreger asked Ms. Fontaine 3 times to take back her statement. Failing to recant, Fontaine was ordered to leave by Dreger and not return for the day. A word. People should be more enraged and disgusted with the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, rather than a word, Fontaine said after leaving the chamber. Premier Brian Pallister addressed Fontaine's accusation. "I think it's shameful behavior to try and cast aspersions at people who weren't at the vigil, along with her and a few dozen people there," the premier said. Fontaine shot back. "When I point out what is fact, that the Pallister government has done nothing to address the issue of MMIWG2S since taking office, and more specifically 2 years after the release of the MMIWG2S National Inquiry's final report and the calls of justice, I'm called to order for simply using a word. We're in the midst of an epidemic of violence leveled against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirited. It's ongoing and consistent. We as Indigenous women never get a break from the violence. So when I bring up the issue of MMIWG2S, and in particular the recent murder of pregnant young women in the Manitoba Legislative Assembly, and have the PC caucus dismiss, minimize, and heckle what I'm bringing forward, it's hard to understand and digest. Systems that maintain status and uphold white supremacy will always attempt to silence those who point out truth. And there was no way I could allow that to go unchecked, dismissed, or unchallenged." Fontaine was back in the House this morning, with her head held high, and more determined than ever to raise the voices of MMIWG2S in and out of the Manitoba legislature. Those in positions of absolute privilege and power should be doing everything they can to shine a light of the issue of MMIWG2S instead of trying to silence and police what Indigenous women or people say about this issue, inside or outside the House. Our women, girls, and Two-Spirits' lives depend on it, said Fontaine. Until we meet again, this is Jonathan Taylor Kane, reporting from Winnipeg for the Daily Scrum News.